Okay, so we're back. Got the old compressor off. We got the new one here on the bench. Another little note here: these bolt holes. You need to make sure to take your, original bolts, clean the threads on them really good, and run them through these holes. Because honestly, I think these holes were threaded wrong. I think they maybe either they were cross-threaded or something wasn't right. Because I got a nice little pile of shiny silver stuff here after running this bolt in and out of there. I had to use a wrench. It started in there, and then afterwards it got kind of screwy going in there. So it's okay now after I ran it in and out of there a few times. But again, this bolt's one of those hard to get ones that you're going to end up threading in there probably by hand. So you want this thing to, you want these bolts to thread in and out of there as easy as possible. So take your original ones out and make sure you clean the threads really good and check these holes. You may have to run the bolt back and forth through there a few times, and then after you've done that, you may have to hose the hole out with a little bit of carburetor cleaner and clean the bolt off again, and almost kind of like you're chasing a new hole there, or making a new hole. So anyways, just an FYI on that. I'm going to take this cap off the manifold here. Well, I guess this is the compressor. I guess this is the manifold. We're taking this cap off and putting this manifold on this compressor. Okay, so make sure we're still rolling here. All right. Okay. Again, you might need a wrench like this, and you might need to give it a whack with a hammer or put a cheater bar or something on it, because these were on there very, very tight. But, once they crack loose, and then they're pretty good. You can pretty much take them out, by hand after that, so. Alright. There's that. And I'm guessing you can just use a new gasket. There's probably nothing wrong with using this old one, but since they give you a new one, and since this one was squished down, and I'm going to have to get my little... Oh, I got my little screwdriver right here. I can get this out. Alright. Just take the new one out of the bag here. You can probably zoom this back at this point a little bit. Now, I'm not sure. I'm not sure the idea of putting this old manifold on. It just occurred to me. I mean, because this thing's got oil in it. So I'm not sure. I guess you would want to have this on there. I guess what you really want to do is you want to plug these holes. You just put that manifold on and then plug the holes. Put a paper towel or something in there. If you had to twist it around and whatever, like I did, getting that old one out of there, you'd have a hell of a time with keeping the oil in it. So I guess we'll just block those holes off with something. Okay. Pag oil is some stinky stuff. Definitely has an odor to it. Alright, now we're going to need something to break these loose. So let's see, what size are these? Yep, smaller than that. Let's see, we're going to need, what do we got here? And we have a winner, and that's a... That's a 5/16 there. So... cheater bar. Since I'm using the cheater bar, I'll just set it up like this. set it on, and I don't have a real good leverage on it the way I'm standing here. Fall on my head here. Alright, got them all loose, and I'm still upright. Knock on wood. Okay, an extension would be nice for this. I know I've got one, thought I had one sitting right here. Not sure where it went, hold on. I actually put it back yesterday. Alright. And I guess you could use either one of these bolts to put this back on here. You know, the Allen cap screws. I'm just going to use these bolts here that came out of this manifold. And when you take this thing off, I mean, there's different reasons why air conditioners and compressors fail. Occasionally, you know, air conditioning compressors are going to, you know, have a maybe metal or, you know, being kind of a bad way on the inside. This doesn't look to be that way, but, you know, if you were to look in there and see a whole bunch of metal shavings and stuff floating around in there, you'd want to make sure that you know, clean this out really well. So we'll just take this gasket and set it on here. Looks okay in there. I mean, the oil looks a little bit darker than it does in here, but otherwise. Just check this surface here and make sure it's okay. I guess that's PAG sludge. Okay, I think it's clean enough to stick it back on there. It's not quite as pretty on the outside here. I could maybe take a little bit of carburetor cleaning. Now, if you're saying, "Oh my God, you put carburetor cleaner on," no, I just sprayed the outside of it. I didn't spray the inside. I didn't get it on all the ports. I didn't do anything like that. We're still holding on to it. I just kind of hit this backside here. It's just fine. Now, like I said, you know, oil's going to want to come out of these here. You know, if you tip it and screw around with it, but I probably got some kind of a rubber plug or something I can put in there good enough to keep it. You just got to plug it up well enough to, you know, well enough to get it on there. So, matter of fact, I'm surprised they don't have some kind of cover that, you know, plastic thing that goes over here that these things screw onto. So, anyways, all right. Guess we're ready to put this thing on. Okay. Just kind of tighten these down by hand a little bit here. And I'm going to take this little adapter here. No, that won't work that way. I'm going to take this little adapter here, this 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter, and I'm going to put it on here and use that to tighten these things up. That way I won't have to reef down as hard on this because it's a little bit bigger wrench. So. I'm sure there's a torque spec for these, and I'm sure this will be just fine. Okay, you get to be a certain age, you've done this long enough, certain size bolts just require a certain size torque, you know. I mean, this thing's going to require twice as much as these, and when it starts getting down to stuff that's this size and smaller, you just kind of snug it and give it a good turn, and that's pretty much the end of it. So, I mean, these are pretty good size bolts here, but you start getting into really small, skinny stuff, and yeah. Okay, okay, we got this on there. We've already discussed the bolt hole situation here. So you can see this one's working fairly well now. So I'll just set this over here. I'll take this one out here. I could actually leave that one in there, but I'm just going to take it out for simplicity's sake. So I have as least amount of stuff on this thing as possible for putting it back in. Let's see. I'm going to check on... I had something... I know I've got enough plugs and crap laying around here to probably block that off. I'm just contemplating maybe just stuffing some paper towels in there, you know. I'm contemplating that very heavily right now, as a matter of fact. Looks like I don't have any... Oh, here they are. Looking for my paper towels. Alright. And you know what I need to do while I'm thinking about it before I forget? Yeah, I need to get that socket out from between the engine and the motor mount there. So, I think this will work good enough. Guess we'll find out. Honestly, these stuffed in there with like a piece of cardboard, you know, with a couple holes in these screwed down, it would probably do you pretty good, you know, until you got it back on there without it spewing too much oil on you. If you get one of these that has no oil in it, I mean, you could just put it on there and put the oil on it when you get it on there, you know, dump it in there. But again, it's hit and miss as to whether these things have oil. This one had absolutely no instructions, no nothing with it at all. Just it came in the bag, came with the gasket, and that's it. So, you know. Alright, I'm going to, I got those plugged up, so I'm going to go do some prep here on the vehicle here. I'm going to go see if I can get my socket back. That's, honestly, that's what I'm going to go do right now, so stick with me. So, the little retrieval magnets that I had, the telescoping ones, they just weren't big enough. I tried them earlier to get the socket out of here, so I improvised here and got my socket back. I took this, it's a welding, you know, magnet like you get to stick, you know, on whatever metal you're working on, and then take your, you know, your welding clamp and stick it there. I took one of those and wrapped a piece of coat hanger around it and stuck it down in there. Kind of just stuck it down in there and brought it back out and had the socket with it, so hooray. Stick with me. Alright, a little bit of a recap here. We got the old compressor out by jacking the front bumper up a little and giving a little more space between the axle and the engine, and the damn thing just fell out on the ground. Wish I would have had the camera running when that happened. We got the manifold off of here and swapped over to this one here. We got some pieces of paper towel kind of stuffed in there to kind of keep, because this has got some oil in it here, so we kind of want to keep the oil in there while we're snaking it up there from underneath. I did manage to get that stupid connector off. This, I just cut the old one off of the old compressor just so I could get this thing out and mess with the connector, and it gave me a lot more slack, you know. We'll come over here real quick and kind of look at that. Okay, so the best that I could see to do with this thing, and some of the videos, and I'll try and post some link to some of those videos, and I may do something special just on this plug in general, because they're such a pain in the ass and they're all over these Jeeps. But the part that's kind of rounded here, when you look at these things, like on this one here, the part that's kind of rounded here like this, that's the part that's supposed to slide that way. The other part that either looks like a couple of maybe teeth or has maybe kind of a thing over here and a hole in it, that's supposed to go that way. Now I don't know if I can, let me grab my pliers real quick. Okay, I think I can get this on the tripod now. Okay. Alright, the best I could see was basically what you're doing is you want to pop this, you know, to push this out. It's, like I said before, it's almost like they made it out of dissimilar plastics, and, you know, when they get heated up and it's almost like it kind of oxidizes. I mean, maybe they're supposed to be that difficult. I don't know. I can't imagine them having to be that difficult, but basically, try to go on this bar here. You want to take the needle nose plier and you want to wedge it against the bottom. Again, this one's kind of broken. This should have another ear over here and a little more plastic here. But basically, you want to take that base, you want to try and wedge this needle nose plier to where it's like not on the edge of the red clip. Okay, now I'm going to take the camera out of here. Okay, so I can try and see that. Okay, I'll be editing this out probably. See if you can see that there. See, and that kind of just popped it out, having to do that. So you kind of have to, on the one end, wedge this end of the plier. You got to be able to squeeze it, you know, but you can't do it straight, otherwise you'd be squeezing the clip like this. So you kind of got to put the end of this needle nose here over here and then squeeze that bottom red part so that it pops that way. And again, I mean, you don't have the room to do that really down kind of where those things are. So the only thing I could think of that might help that a little is maybe spraying some WD-40 on a little bit, might oil it up and let it soak overnight or something. You know, not a ton, just a little bit to maybe help that move. But I don't know, because then you're going to have a connector that's fidgety and a pain in the butt, and it's going to have oil on it. So I don't know. I may end up just doing a separate video or something on that clip just for the hell of it, since they're all over these vehicles and they're a royal pain in the rear end. Fortunately, you can get new ones. But I did manage to get this one off without too much incident here. So the clip is still on there and still intact and everything. So anyways, so I did get that off. So next, oh, and I got my socket out of there too. Got the socket out of there. I think I already showed you how I got that out of there. So next time I will be trying to snake that compressor up through there. So stick with me. Okay, so jacking it up gave me a little bit more room to get it up in there, so that's what I'm going to try and do. I just wanted to get a camera shot from down here. I'm probably going to put the camera on the tripod and probably try and film it from going in from, you know, up top. But I did want to just kind of show a shot of that. Let me crawl out from under here. Okay. Oh. All right. Excuse the camera shake. So I'm just going to try and get it zoomed in down there. I don't know. Should be able to kind of see when it's coming up through there. Put my gloves on. Okay. I got my 3 bolts, which is the long one on the bottom, the medium one, and the short one on top. So, let's set those right here on the bumper. And I'm going to crawl underneath there and see if I can get this thing up there. I'm going to put one more little tug on the jack here. Alright. Let me set this thing under here from the front here. Okay. Let's see if we can do it this way. Ouch! Don't do what I just did, and I ain't even going to tell you what I just did. Okay. Alright. Okay. All right, it's about halfway in here. Okay, man, you really got to okay. It's totally doable. It's just you really got to screw with it. And then there's this bushing here. I don't know how to explain this. This bushing on the new one might need to be pounded in there just a little bit. Okay. I don't think it's going anywhere. It's just kind of basically leveling itself there. I don't even know if you can see it from the top. Oh yeah, a little bit. Well, let me take this camera off here. Take you down under here. Okay. So it's just kind of sitting in there. You really gotta pay attention to how you're putting it in there. You really kind of gotta snake it in there. And then once you get up to where it's almost there, then you gotta snake that pulley. You gotta kind of push this radiator hose over to the side. But anyways, there's that boss on the block there. And this pin here is a little bit too far forward, so I need to tap that pin back a little bit so that this thing can go over the boss there on the block, and I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here again. Please, again, excuse the camera shake. And I'll just shine it this way here. And it's this part here. You can see this pin here. It needs to be driven that way just a little bit so this can fit on there in the block. So I'm going to grab a hammer real quick and I'll meet you back under there. Alright, I grabbed a hammer. I'm just going to try and set this thing on its back here. I don't know if I'll be able to see anything at all in here. I'm going to try and aim it up that direction. But I know you may all just be getting axle. Try and move it back here. Have no idea. But I'm going to try and put a couple little taps on that. I got a small hammer here. I'm going to see if the small one will do it. Move this wire out of the way. Yeah, it feels like the small one's moving it. That spacer has the threads in it too, so be careful how you're whamming on it. We're getting to where we're going to want to put a bottom bolt in here. Hopefully this thing will be to where that's... Ouch. Okay, there we go. Falling debris. Another reason to always wear your safety glasses. That's another reason why I have my sunglasses on half the time, because they double as my safety glasses. Okay, we've got the bolt through the bottom hole. Now we're just kind of trying to see if we can thread it into that spacer there. Okay, that's giving me a little bit of time there, just because I'm going to get my 1/2-inch little wrench and see if I can get some turns on that. But let me pull this camera back this way here and show you where we're at here. Let's see if you can see we've got the bolt through there. It's just not matched right into the threads on the end there, so that's where we're at. So I'm going to pause it real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, well, ouch, excuse me. Oh, that bottom one's in there, but it's not threaded in, and there's still some weight of that compressor on there that's kind of keeping it from lining up with that other hole. So I'm going to see if I can try and thread in a couple of these top ones first. So I'm going to move the camera over here a little bit. Alright, now that's kind of a crummy angle there. Okay, I'm going to have to take my glove off to do this. Okay, let's see what I can do under here. Let's see. Okay. It's hard because the sun's in a way where it's shining down in there, but I can't really see what I'm doing still. Okay, I'm going to have to get underneath there, I think, and do a little bit more work to try and get that bolt in there, maybe. Let me see here. Yeah, I think I might need to actually pull the bolt out and pound that little bushing back in there a little bit further. Alright, so this is really hard to film on the camera with the way the light is today, and it's just really giving me a hard time here. So I had to pound that little bushing in there a little bit further back, and that allowed this thing to kind of flop up a little bit more so I could put that top bolt in there. And then you can see the bolt hole for the other one right there. Maybe. I don't know if you can see that down in there. Damn it. can kind of see that bolt hole right there. Yeah, you can see it right there. So that's the one for the short bolt, and then the other one's already threaded in there a couple turns. You have to, when you put this in there, you have to, when you get that bottom bolt in there, even if it's not threaded in there, so this thing's rotating, you have to rotate this thing all the way up. Do it all the way up. You got to remember, it's a serpentine belt. You don't, adjust the accessories individually. So, anyways, you put this in all the way up, get that bolt in there. That bottom bolt is acting like it doesn't want to thread in to that little bushing down there, and all these threads in these holes acted like they were not threaded quite right or kind of screwed up, so I may have to deal with that down there. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and try and put this thing back in the tripod and see if I can tighten those things up. So stick with me. Okay, and then this is in the sun, and this camera really doesn't like heat, so doing the best I can here. Okay, we're gonna see if we can, I might be able to thread this one in here by hand a little bit more. Yeah, it feels like it's, that's the other reason, like I said, to chase these bolt holes really good, so you can get these things in here as far as you can by finger, because this makes it a lot faster than having to stick the wrench in there and do it a 1/16th of a turn at a time. All right, yeah, we got that one all there, pretty much just snug with our fingers there, so that's good. All right, and we got this short one here. Maybe I can zoom out a little bit. Okay. Oh, and that one seems to be going in without any issues either, so that's good. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go back down here on the bottom side and kind of mess with this other one down here. Whoops, sorry about that. Guess you're probably used to it by now if you're watching anything I make. Okay. Now we're going to sneak back down under here. And again, if you can see up in there, that bushing there, just, it might be a different thread size because I didn't run a bolt through there because I didn't really realize that bushing was the nut. So I didn't run a bolt through there to chase it or to see if the threads were right. And it's acting like it doesn't want to go in there. But the weight's totally supported by those other top two bolts and it's snug. So if it's going to go in, it will. If not, I can just knock that thing the rest of the way out and either put the old one in or take a tap or something and chase that. But once again, this stuff gets remanufactured, and I mean, who knows? So that's where it stands right now. So let me set this thing down here on its back. Once again, I don't know. See up at any of that at all. I'm just going to assume going straight up. See a little bit there. Okay. There, it feels like it's catching. The question is it the proper thread? I think not. I mean, the other two weren't threaded right, so why would that one be? You know what I mean? Just kind of wants to catch, but yeah. So I'm sure that's the wrong thread. So well, just this stupid stuff, it's really frustrating. But once again, this is all part of it. Part of working on cars, part of working on houses, part of working on all of it is bad parts, wrong parts, stuff that doesn't fit, stuff that wasn't designed right, stuff that's, so this is how I'm just going to kind of This bushing's really, it's not too bad for bashing it out of there. Take the bolt out of here. See if we can bash this thing the rest of the way out of here. Yeah, it needs one more good whack. I'm going to move the camera over here so that it doesn't come flying out and land on the camera. Okay. Okay, I got to get a slightly smaller screwdriver here to stick in there because this one's just a little bit too big. Just hold on a minute here. Okay, I just it's so hard to see up in there. I just gave it another good whack and knocked it out of there. So I'm going to take the bolt out. I'm going to grab this hole. So for whatever ridiculous reason, it seems to thread on fine through this end, but this other end was just, there's something not right with it, so I don't know why. So I'm going to put it in from that end, and we'll try it again. Okay, see if I can try and move some of this crap out of the way. Alright, so you can maybe see I got that bushing in there, so I got this little hammer. And I'm just coming up back behind it here. You really just need to tap it in far enough so that that bolt will grab a hold of it, because it'll pull it up tight against that boss there. Let's see here. Yeah, close but no cigar. A little bit further. Almost. I'm going to put it in there one more. I'm going to back it up just a little more. It feels like it's like got one thread it's grabbing onto. I want to make sure it's okay. Alright, I do believe that's got it. Set this thing on its back here. Again, I don't know if you can any of that or not. So, we just got to tighten up all these bolts. Again, this little 1/4" ratchet actually fits in here pretty good. I could be using a 3/8, but this is working good. And it's drawing that, bushing in as well. If you can see that. Okay, let's set this thing back down on its back here. I mean, if the footage is too crappy, I'll just edit it out. But there might be something good in here. Put this back on, then we need to hook up that electrical connector, tighten those other 2 bolts, and then we can put the belt back on too. And then we could start getting ready to put on our new lines. And then we got this condenser in the front we got to change out. So, okay, we're good. I'm gonna bring this up top here. Okay, this poor camera has been through hell. All right, I'm gonna put the Titan on these guys here. Do this one up here. This one is already finger tight, so I just gotta whoops. And let's see, let's tighten this little one here a little bit more by hand. Now this one here, you can kind of get to it with this ratchet here. If this ratchet was just a little bit taller, I'm still going to have to put my extension and my universal joint on that one. Ooh. Don't want to drop the ratchet because you know where that could go. Down where the socket went. I don't want that. Again, I believe this is a 15 millimeter, and I did not have a 15 millimeter open end, so I had to put a crescent wrench on there and do some weird stuff there, but I got it loose. This, I think, works pretty good for what it is. I think you could get it pretty much loose or tight enough with this. You might want to try and put a longer wrench and get another turn on it, but that's you get pretty good with this. Again, this is a 1/4 inch with a 1/4 inch to 3/8 adapter, and then a 3/8 short 15 mil. The wrench and the socket are Craftsman's, and I'm just mentioning that because different tools have different, dimensions as far as their what can fit and what can't. So, okay, we're gonna have to grab the universal joint and the thing for the other one. So let me grab that. This was the setup: a 3/8 extension or universal joint, about a 1 foot 3/8 extension. A wobble would probably be best, and then a 3/8 ratchet. Again, it's nice to be able to stabilize the extension on this when you're now I got it going. Okay, that is just being a little bit ridiculous there. Okay, that's just, you know, stupid the way that's fitting on there, so I'm gonna try this setup here. It's just at such an extreme angle. Yeah, this universal joint's just not cutting it very well. Let me see if I got a deep 15. And maybe this deep 15 and a wobble will work. Not quite. Maybe a deep, and this will work. Ah, yeah, better. Yeah, I can get a little bit more of a turn on that there. Okay, that's about as good as I'm going to get on that one, I think. So, alright, I'm going to put one more really good turn on this one on the bottom here, just to make sure, since that one I know I can get extra tight. Or at least it's as tight as it's supposed to be. Okay. Alright, well, the camera overheated and decided to take a half a holiday here. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go ahead, since I'm pretty much done doing all that crazy stuff under there, I'm going to gather up my tools from underneath here, and I'm going to let this jack down. And yes, it is important to have one of these goofy little hammers. This is like one of those little hammers out of a toy kit, but they do come in handy for getting into tight spots. So, all right, and I just put a 2x4 under the bumper. I didn't lift the wheel up off the ground. That's probably 3 or 4 inches there was all I needed to lift it up. So, go there. Next, I'm going to put the belt back on. I'm going to see if I can get some more height out of this tripod so I can get more of a downward angle on it. And then you can take this thing in and let it cool it off and let it rest a little bit. So just a quick recap. We got the compressor on there. We punched that bushing out and had to flip it around. We got all of our bolts in there, and we've let it down now since we got the compressor up in there. We've let the jack down now. Oh, and I guess we can hook up our electrical connector too. So it's right here. Okay, for some strange reason, the electrical connector on this thing seems really short. Jesus. Just something else to not be freaking right. Holy jeez. Alright, well, let me see what's going on with that now. So, yeah, on the new compressor so far, the top, or the 2 bolt holes in the compressor were not threaded quite right. The one on the bottom, I don't know what was going on with that. It might have been threaded right. It just was pushed in there the wrong way in the end, didn't want to start threading. So let me see what's going on with the wire here. Okay, so for whatever reason, and I do really mean whatever because I don't care at this point, the other connector kind of hooked up on top of the compressor. Like when the wire came out, they had it, I don't know, clocked at a different position or something. So this has to just clip on underneath the compressor. So this wiring, you know, the plug will just go underneath here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I just went ahead and snapped it in there, and we're good to go there. So good, fine. Alright, now back up to the belts. So I had to get a little creative with the tripod here. I'm never going to get into that. Okay, the belt. So I kind of left it to where it was, shouldn't have been that hard to figure out how to put back on. So I'm just going to pull this part back up over here. Like I said, the decal for the routing instructions are gone, so you can either look them up online, or you could print it out, or, you know, draw a picture, take a picture, take a video, whatever. So we know it's got to go around this top pulley here, and we know it's got to go around this pulley here because it has to touch that pulley for it to move. And then it's going to come up from that pulley and go, so it goes around this top one, around the bottom one, then up the side on the bottom one, and then around the one in the middle here. Then we're going to bring it over here, this direction here. You kind of got to look at it and make sure that it's sort of staying where it's supposed to be, because it's going to want to move around on you a little bit there. Now we've got this tensioner here, like that. And we've got, well, actually that's not a tensioner, that's an idler pulley. We've got, okay, let's see. Okay, so now we've got the bottom pulley, the crank pulley, and then it's going to come up and go around the tensioner pulley. Then it's got to go around this idler pulley, like that. And then that basically oh wait, that's not right. This goes under the pulley over here. If it's a slick side, or slick or smooth, you know, it's going to go on top of the, you know, it's going to go on the smooth side of the belt somehow. If it's got the grooves on it, then it's going to be going over something that's got grooves like a pulley. So now we've got this thing kind of routed up through here. Okay, this prop rod on this thing is just a pain in the rear. Okay, so now what we got to do is we got to bring this wrench over. Whoops. Try and stabilize the camera here. Oh, I can only imagine what's going on with all of this here. I'm going to try and stand over here. Okay. Now we're going to push this tensioner this way, which is going to give us slack and allow us to stretch this over the alternator pulley here. And somewhere it's a little tangled somewhere, so I'm going to have to let it back down and figure out where I'm losing some slack here. Okay. Okay, we're wrapped around all our pulleys. All right. There we go. Okay. Now, you can look down here and see, who knows if this thing's even still running. Wow, it's still running. You can look down here and see that it's not completely on this. It needs to go, I don't know how to explain it. It needs to go on there. There. It needs to go over that pulley a little more. If you get it on there where it's lined up pretty good, once you start, you know, there may be a couple little gaps here and there. But once you know, if it's aligned on all these pulleys, just by cranking it over, it should center itself pretty good. So it looks like everything's on there like it's supposed to be. So I think we're good there. So all right. Going to take a break and figure out what we're going to do next, what part of the system we're going to do next. We're working on the lines and all that, obviously. So next is going to be, I guess next is going to be the lines, and then we're going to do the condenser thingy up here in the front here. So, and then when you're done, it's always a good idea to remember to take the wrench out. Really good idea. I mean, hell, if you're doing this professionally, someone might even pay you a couple extra dollars to take the wrench out. So, all right. Okay. Gemini Garage. I shall return. Stick with me. Okay, so the pile of parts is getting smaller, so we're down to the dryer, the condenser thing up here that goes in front of the radiator, and the lines. Quick recap, we did get the compressor back on. I had to chase out a couple of those bolt holes, run the bolts in and out of there on the new compressor because they just weren't threaded right for some reason. And then the bushing on the bottom, I had to flip it around because for some reason the one end of it the bolt didn't want to thread into, but the other end it would. So it basically had to deal with all of the bolt holes on the new compressor. Once I did that, got it up in there. Of course, I needed to jack it up to get it out of there, and I left it jacked up and got it back up in there. So we got it bolted into place, no lines on it yet, and the belt's back on. And the electrical connector is back on. So I think what I'm going to do next, this condenser here, you're going to have to, I think, take the radiator out just to be safe and do it right, because you might be able to push the radiator far enough forward, but there's a spot down here where the lines for this condenser come out. And I mean, this is just kind of like there's metal here, so you kind of have to move the condenser all the way out and forward, and I just don't know if there's enough room to push that radiator forward. And to be honest with you, there's probably, I'm sure the service manual probably tells you to take the radiator out. I do not see a lot of videos on this. I see videos on replacing just about everything else in the air conditioning system, or maybe a full-on replacement of everything but I don't see really too many videos of, you know, taking out the stock radiator and the stock condenser and replacing that and put it back. I don't see a lot of videos on that, which of course means there's not a lot of videos with any kind of hacks of doing, you know, any shortcuts for it either. So I think you probably just you know, different years are different, you know, and maybe there are some years when you can kind of push the radiator for this and that, but on this one I just don't see it. So probably going to end up having to take the radiator out, but that's okay because I've had a new lower radiator hose that I've had for a while just in case anyways, and it's probably due for a coolant flush and some new fluid, new coolant fluid anyway. So with that, I will get to that because that's going to be its own little project, removing the radiator and doing that. Of course, we still got to get all these parts and lines on here and then get it charged, so we're getting there. But next, I'm going to go ahead and put this on just to get this thing out of the way and go ahead and get it mounted back there and get it ready to put the lines and stuff on. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, just put this on here to get it where it needs to be and get it out of the way. Just for the heck of it, here's a picture of the, I guess you could say, gasket and O-ring kit. There are a couple of like gasket-looking things in there. And then O-rings and an orifice tube. So that's what we've got going on there. So I'm going to get my wrench and the appropriate whatever I need to get this on there, and I'll return. Stick with me.